Dr. Animo was always a bit nutty. Back in his origin, he was an angry nobody who just wanted the glory he felt his genius deserved. Granted, he certainly took it too far, but it was still a reasonably standard motive for a reasonably standard supervillain. But then he got crazier and crazier and crazier, to the point where he starts this episode off by talking to himself in strange voices.
You are a true genius, Dr. Animo.
It's an honor just to watch you work.
Oh, do go on.
And by the end, it's implied he's hearing them now too.
You'll never learn, will you, Doc?
Who said that? Who?
This story takes place almost entirely in the past, following up once more on the Plumber's Earth operations reopening, and I'm occupied by the retroactive development. Really builds a bridge between the first two series. While Omniverse began by frequently jumping between time, we don't get much of that anymore now that the malware story arc is completed, so it's nice to see that theme still continue past the initial plan. I liked that after all the buildup, the Doctor's plans were thwarted by an oblivious Blukich. Really sets in stone that he's lost his edge. His sanity and efficiently has gone so downhill that we needed to go back in time just to give him a chance at being a true antagonist. But that would probably be the only story beat I genuinely enjoyed. The whole episode is just the classic trio going through trap after trap until they reach Animo, which gets repetitive pretty fast. Much of the conflict felt too overdramatic, like climbing up the disabled freight platform. With the way it's designed, they easily could have made it up there just by walking normally. Seeing them struggle so hard to climb the area was pretty pathetic, especially since Gwen can do this later on in the episode. Given Animo was going to break into Plumber HQ through his own means and didn't need to go at the same time as the Tennysons, he should have just broken in at night and then his plan would have worked flawlessly. But hey, that's Animo for you. The callback to Upchuck destroying Mount Rushmore pays off here when he does it again, but having it happen a second time just felt mean-spirited. The first time it happened, he had no other choice, but here, it seemed pretty intentional. Bro, you couldn't have just aimed upwards? They've even emphasized they only just now finished the construction nearly a year later.
I've heard enough.
Nice of the Plumbers to give Animo all these stuffed animals to work with, I guess. And you gotta love this Easter egg.
Tennyson Maxwell 12-27-0-5.
And the Metal Gear Solid reference was kinda neat, given Paul Eiding's role in that franchise. Can you believe this is not an edit? This is the only episode that features Teen Ben where he doesn't speak or transform into an alien. Even in Moonstruck we got a Forearms cameo, but at least young Ben gets to show off some fun forms. Though this is the best performance of Dwight Schultz as Dr. Animo. I know all of the voices he mimics for the animals are played for laughs, but they do low-key show off his acting range.
You'll never learn, will you, Doc?
Dr. Animo, isn't this the same plan that Tennyson foiled? You are a true genius, Dr. Animo.
Kinda makes me wish Dwight got a chance to voice some of the aliens too, since he's been around for so long. I mean, Paul got to voice Eye Guy in Ultimate Spider-Monkey. I'm sure they could have found room for Dwight somewhere. But Animo is such a fun character, he's one of the only ones I'm okay with still being a factor in Ben's life, even when he's hilariously outclassed. As for Ben, well...
More is always more, duh!
At this point, it's so hard for me to keep track of Ben's fluctuating development and regression, but I think it's less jarring since we're dealing with young Ben here. But still, he learns about strategy in episode 5 for Zed's sake. A lot of the humor felt too character breaking, like seeing Animo stoop to Ben's childish antics, or Max saying,
Yes, what is it, boy? Someone in trouble?
Sure, it's just a joke, but it doesn't mean that Max would normally say something like that as a serious response, and it really does seem like he's being serious right now. It feels like this joke is more of just for the audience and not Max making an in-universe joke for Ben and Gwen, and this episode is full of things like that. Everyone is acting like they're in a stage play during this episode, regardless if it's amusing. It was cute seeing Blukich and Driba in the past, and I'll admit, the mini exit joke was pretty solid.
The two new Galvin techs assured me they installed an emergency exit.
You mean that?
But props for Ashley Johnson for her portrayal of young Gwen. She's really made the role her own after doing it for a while. Overall, the visuals were pretty passable, but not great. Like Vilgax Must Croak, there's many times everyone is way too off-model, and there's not enough action or intriguing visual concepts to make up for it. Most of the aliens just look weird, which is strange considering the same studio was responsible for episodes like The Ultimate Sacrifice, and both parts of The More Things Change. The two-headed giraffe was neat though. Y'all still won't be able to bully me into hating on Degains, but I'll admit that showing off more of Dr. Animo's mutants in Omniverse gives us some stunning creature designs that were lacking in the UAF era, but I'm still sick of everyone in the show shooting red lasers. Even these things? Really? It does suck that Omniverse got rid of the eyes merging for the big chest beam thing. That was one of my favorite things about Eye Guy, and now it's gone. It's notable that the entrance to this layer changes every time we see it, but you can chalk that up to the construction Max was talking about, and it was a missed opportunity for the decommissioned droids to be the same ones from Classic. Despite not enjoying this episode all that much, it still doesn't feel great to give it a 0 in importance, but alas, that's what I'm left with. Now that we're at the tail end of all 4 series that make up the Prime franchise, we're running very low on fan community defining episodes that aren't tied to story arcs. With each passing series, we get less and less of them. It was nice to have another adventure with the Classic trio, and Dr. Animo is pretty fun to watch, but the slow pace, repetitive jokes, and underwhelming upchuck ending doesn't do it any favors. Season 4 of Omniverse is struggling to make a name for itself. This may be my least favorite season of the show so far. I hope things pick up soon, cause I'm starting to get bored of these past few stories. It's all silly humor with none of that Ben 10 charm.
Ever notice you're the only person who ever called you a genius?
Big thanks to Andrew Analik and Elizabeth Susan for supporting the channel in the ink cartridge tier. We really appreciate your contributions to developing more ink tank projects. Thanks for being a part of our community.